All right, hello everybody. Welcome to our lesson for January 12th. We're going to talk about art and literature revolutions today. So we're going to take a look at some of the changes that are happening in art and literature in the 1800s and middle 1800s in Europe and around the world at the time. So we have our objectives and standards here to summarize the key themes of Romanticism and compare other forms of art and literature that evolved excuse me, during this time to each other. If you would please take a look at the standards as well. So our essential question today, or our desired result, what changes did art and literature go through during the time period? So we have some vocabulary here. Romanticism is an art movement that represented a focus on nature and thoughts and feelings of individuals. Realism is an art movement that sought to show life as it really was, not as how it should be. And Impressionism is the use of bright shimmering colors to show a more positive view of life than realism. So art changes. At the end of the 1700s, we're going to see that artists are going to begin to focus on nature and individuals. So they turned from some of the ideas of the Enlightenment, which were about reason and intelligence and emotion, to society and nature. Now, sometimes they included extra emotions, but mainly they focused on ideas and thoughts. So the elements of Romanticism, or this new artistic movement, contains these elements. It focused on inner feelings and emotions. Frequently, it contained images of untamed nature and mysterious or horrifying events. Could be maybe like a dark house with maybe a ghost or a spirit floating through it. Maybe a ship on rough seas, which would be a horrifying event. Things like that. And even valued the common people and individuals. I have a couple of examples here to show you. The first one here on the left-hand side of your screen here, I'll draw an area here for you. This one is called Romantic Landscape with Ruined Tower. This was by Thomas Cole, and you can see how it kind of shows you nature and the kind of unaltered form of nature, right? We can see kind of the sunset here. Looks like maybe the sunset, maybe a sunrise. It looks like maybe some storm clouds coming in here as well. So maybe some rain or some nasty storm coming in. Looks like there's a man down here walking on the rocks. We can see this kind of destroyed, dilapidated tower here as well. So this was some of the forms of Romanticism, showing nature and life in its natural type of environment. The other picture over here on the right-hand side, draw an arrow there for you. This is called Modern Rome, or Campo Vicino, by J.M.W. Turner. Kind of shows you kind of a modern picture of Rome. Again, we can see the Roman ruins here. Maybe the main city or the modern city of Rome in the background over here. And it kind of looks kind of almost like a fantasy kind of almost to me. I mean, I don't know how many of you play video games. I don't play video games anymore, but when I used to, kind of looks like something kind of maybe on like a video game type world almost, kind of, in my opinion, like maybe like a Final Fantasy type thing or something like that. I'm not quite sure. And again, we have people down here again showing them in their natural environment. So again, shows you kind of nature and reality in its kind of unaltered form. So that's the whole point of Romanticism, focusing on nature and focusing on society. So literature and music. Literature also changed to adapt to Romanticism. People will begin to write about things like honor, beauty, and nature. There's also Gothic horror stories that become popular. Things like Frankenstein becomes a very popular book by Mary Shelley. So things like that nature begin to become more interest to people. And music will also express the ideas of Romanticism. So focus of music will be on exciting, heroic themes that, like we just talked about this week, focus on nationalism and patriotism and being proud of your country and your culture. So music is also going to reflect a major change as well. Art is then going to shift again. By the middle of the 1800s, art will shift again to another style. This time in our next unit, we'll talk more about industrialism and how factory way of life and overcrowded cities are going to affect this. But industry caused artists to focus on the reality of life. For example, work is dirty and life is tough. There's crowded cities. So this new art style becomes known as realism, and you can kind of see the word real there if we break that word apart. So this will focus on realism. And here's some examples here for you. This first one here on the left-hand side, The Widower, in 1875 by Sir Luke Fidelis. Kind of shows you, looks like a gentleman who maybe his wife recently just passed away. I don't know the true story behind the painting, but we can assume that maybe his wife has passed away and recently, and now he has to take care of, let's see, what's he got here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 children. So maybe his wife recently passed away. He's struggling to work. He's struggling to take care of his children. You can see they kind of live in a kind of a rundown home, almost a dirty home. Looks like maybe this is the oldest child here that's trying to help his father as well. Over here in the background, looks like maybe he's cleaning or helping set the table or something. But again, you can see the man is very distraught. Maybe his child here is sick. He just lost his wife maybe, and maybe now his child is sick. And this was a very real problem for people in the 1800s, as men, women, children, families. And I don't want to sound graphic, but maybe his child has just passed away. I don't know. Again, just kind of looking at the artwork myself, and you can form your own opinions. But again, this was to show what life was like. This was what real life was like. There's no, fancy, beautiful nature like in Romanticism. There's no, people, enjoying life. This is what life is like. This is the true story of life. And then this picture over here, we have Iron and Coal by William Bell Scott. This just shows you men working in an iron factory or a steel mill maybe, or a coal factory. But again, you can see they have their hammers here. They're working. It looks like maybe there's some fire going on over here in the background. Maybe they're working on a piece of steel. Again, very hard work, very dangerous work, very unsafe work at times. So again, showing people in their natural environment doing what they're doing, just living their lives. So that was the whole purpose of realism. So another thing that helped focus on reality was photographs. We began to see the first type of photographs come around during this time, and they captured images of people in their daily lives and the struggles that they face, such as, again, is maybe caring for their family or their sick children, maybe in their work environment. Either way, it showed people in their natural environment and showed real people, not just paintings or depictions of people, but showed people in real life. Writers we're also going to write about the struggle between rich and poor, the very real struggle between rich and poor at this time. So writers will write about that. And they will also focus on the lives of the working class, and this will help bring about labor reforms. Again, when we get into our next unit about industrialism, you'll see how people were pushing for reforms in terms of factory way of life and city way of life, and many labor reforms are going to come about because of that. And the last art style we want to talk about today is Impressionism. Okay, around the 1860s, other artists decided to focus on the positives of life instead of the negatives. So I don't want to say that realism was always negative, but you saw in the previous pictures that it's kind of a depressing image, or an image that shows you people working hard, or people struggling to work. So Impressionism will try to kind of bring about the positives of life instead of focusing on the negatives. For example, they're going to show workers enjoying themselves at parties, or maybe even enjoying themselves at work. And musical composers will also use sound that will create beautiful music that will make people feel warm and welcome, not so much dark and gloomy and gray music that makes people feel kind of depressed, but music that will make people feel upbeat, make people want to dance, make people want to have a good time. So again, this is known as Impressionism. And again, here's some pictures here. So again, you can kind of see the difference between that and realism, where realism focused on more darker colors, and impressionism is going to focus on more brighter colors and people enjoying themselves. For example, an out-of-door study, we see a gentleman and a woman there, maybe sitting by a lake or a park or wherever, enjoying their time together. It looks like maybe he's painting something and she's just kind of relaxing with him. Again, showing people enjoying life and enjoying each other's company. And then we have on the right-hand side the entry to a drawing room at Marlborough House. This is a French painting by Eugene Louis Lamy. And you can see it looks like maybe they're going to a party or some type of event. Again, beautiful dresses. Men are dressed nicely in looks like uniforms. Carriages. We can see a horse and carriage with bright colors. We see the women in beautiful dresses. We can see the men in their sharp-looking, handsome uniforms. Again, people getting ready to go to maybe a function, an event, a party, just to enjoy life. All right, so we'll wrap up here. So remember that Romanticism is going to focus on nature, also the individual, but mostly on nature, like that painting there. Realism is going to look at the reality of the lives of individuals. Again, people living in crowded cities or difficult situations, people working hard, maybe working in difficult situations. And then we're going to have Impressionism, which will look at the positives of life. We see a lot of bright colors here, a lot of fun colors, a lot of excitement. So it looks at the positives of life and people enjoying themselves. So like we said, even though there was revolutions going on in government and in society, we're also seeing a revolution in art and literature and culture as well. And that's something I want you to think about as well. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this lesson. Let me know if you have any questions. Try your best on the questions that follow, and I'll hopefully talk to you soon.